Hello everyone. My name is Elise. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are doing another version of a try a chapter, which I did last year. Oh God, was it last year? Yes, I did it last year. And it was really useful for me because I was trying out a chapter for some of the oldest books on my TBR just to see if they even matched my reading taste anymore. Back in the day when I was getting books, I was sort of just purchasing them at the thrift store if I've heard about them and saw them there. So I was accumulating a lot of books without being very discerning about them. So I have another shelf today that I'm going to be going through and trying a chapter and then deciding whether or not I'm going to keep the book or I'm going to unhaul it. I'll link the other version of this that I did down below. And really what we're doing is we're tackling the little cubes on my shelf that are my least pulled from cubes, which are all the ones on the left side. I rarely pull from them. And these are all also double stacked. So the ones that are in the back, I don't even know what's back there at this point anymore. So I'm going to be going through another one to see if I actually want to keep these books. So let me grab all of them and bring them over so I can show you all of the titles. We have all the books in front of me, so now we're going to start going through them one by one. I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis if I remember what that even is, and then might also check out the blurb a bit, tell you how, when, why I got it, and then we'll get to the reading portion. I think last time I did it in chunks. Oh, am I going to do that again? Maybe. Yeah, I'll do them in chunks. So first few, we have maybe the most popular one on here. I didn't even know I owned this. So this is really telling you something that I never look at those books. So this is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. This one's published by Little Brown, which is an imprint of Hachette. And this book, I'm sure I got it because it's much beloved. So many people rave about this book and Donna Tartt in general. I've never read a Donna Tartt novel. I'm guessing this is the only one I own, but again, clearly I don't remember some of these books on the back of my shelves, but I think this is the only one I own of hers. And I think this is having to do with a famous painting, The Goldfinch, about like a mother and a son, and they somehow get involved in like a heist or something, or like a bomb. Why am I remembering that? Okay, it says that it begins with a boy, Theo Decker, a 13-year-old New Yorker who miraculously survives an accident that kills his mother. Maybe that's why I'm thinking there's like a bomb at an art museum. I might be making that up. And then it kind of follows his life from there. I know he becomes like involved in crime in some way. That's also in the blurb. And this is the third novel that Donna Tartt published. And I'm not quite sure if this did so well just on the back of her previous success or if people really feel like this stands alone. Excited to try out her writing because I've never read her before. Then we have a thick nonfiction book, which is The Emperor of Maladies by Siddhartha Mukherjee. And this one's published by Scribner. This is a very famous nonfiction book about cancer. Yeah, it says a humane biography of cancer from its first documented appearances thousands of years ago through the epic battles in the 21st century to cure, control, and conquer it. So yeah, also intrigued. I don't know if this will feel out of date. This happened last time where some of the nonfiction, I was like, is this gonna be out of date? By this point, this was originally published in 2010. Another nonfiction, we have Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson. This one's published by Flatiron Book. This one I'm sure I picked up just because I've heard so many good things about Jenny Lawson. She has many a nonfiction, and I think she writes somewhat humorously about life. So yeah, intrigued to, again, try it out, see what her writing is actually like because I've never read her before. So that is Furiously Happy. Then last one in this section, another novel. This is Saints for All Occasions by J. Courtney Sullivan. This one is published by Knopf, and I do remember seeing some review of this book and thinking it sounded really interesting, so I wanted to pick it up. I think it has nuns in it or something like that. So let's see. Nora and Teresa Flynn are 21 and 17 when they leave their small town village in Ireland and journey to America. Nora is the responsible sister. She's shy and serious and engaged to a man she isn't sure that she loves. Teresa is gregarious. She is thrilled by their new life in Boston and besotted with the fashionable dresses and dance halls on Dudley Street. But when Teresa ends up pregnant, Nora is forced to come up with a plan, a decision with repercussions they are both far too young to understand. Oh, and then we jump to 50 years later. Oh yeah, okay, so Teresa is now a nun in the later timeline, and Nora has a huge family that she's the matriarch of. Sorry if the angle changed, it cut off, but I think I was saying Nora is mother of a large family. She has 4 kids, and maybe we follow the perspectives of all of them. And I think the book is talking about sisterhood. No idea, but that's the premise so far. So let me go away and read the beginning of these books. I don't necessarily always like limit or make myself do a chapter exactly. I sort of just read until I get a sense of the book and the writing style to see if I think it'll be a good fit for me. So that's what I'm gonna do, and I'll come back and share my thoughts with you afterwards. Next section of books we have here, another non-fiction book, and that is Reinventing American Healthcare: How the Affordable Care Act Will Improve Our Terribly Complex, Blatantly Unjust, Outrageously Expensive, Grossly Inefficient, Error-Prone System. Clearly a little bit of a biased book. This is by Ezekiel J. Emanuel, who was one of the advisors and worked on the Affordable Care Act. And I think it's talking about the history of healthcare in America and why they used the provisions that they did in the Affordable Care Act. This is one where I'm like, is this gonna be too outdated? This is also from 2010. And I don't know, we'll have to see how I feel about this one. It's published by Public Affairs, and I think they specifically do like educational books. So there's that one. Then we have Everybody's Fool by Richard Russo. This is published by Knopf. Now that I'm seeing his name, is he canceled? I never know who's canceled nowadays. Maybe I should look that up. I'll look that up before I start reading it. Richard Russo, I think I picked this up because a lot of people talk about him as like one of the potentially great American authors, and I probably saw it at a thrift store and got it. I don't know anything about it, so I'm going to read you a portion of the blurb. The irresistible Sully, who in the intervening years has come by some unexpected good fortune, is staring down a VA cardiologist's estimate that he has only a year or 2 left, and it's hard work trying to keep this news from the most important people in his life. Ruth, the married woman he carried on with for years, the ultra-hapless Rube Squeers, who worries that he and Sully aren't still best friends, Sully's son and grandson, for whom he was mostly an absentee figure and now a regretful one. We also enjoy the company of Doug Raymer, the chief of police, who's obsessing primarily over the identity of a man his wife might have about to run off with before dying in a freak accident. Okay, we're just getting a shit ton of characters. There's more and more and more as the blurb goes on. We'll see. I need to look up if he's canceled. if he's not canceled. Sorry if he's not canceled at all and I'm just, spreading propaganda at this point. I will confirm or deny, and then we'll go from there. Then we have, this is the newest book that was put back there, and I knew I had just put this one in the back because it was really one of the only spaces that I could fit a hardcover. This just came in from my mother-in-law. It's The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I think this was in my latest book haul. This one's published by Celadon Books, and this is a thriller about a woman who, it seems, she murdered her husband and then goes silent afterwards, and there's this psychologist who thinks that he can get her to open up, and I think we get their like sessions together. So that is The Silent Patient. I know I at least want to give that one a shot, so this will be as good a time as any. Last up for this section, we have another nonfiction. I had a lot of nonfiction back there. This is The Body by Bill Bryson, a guide for occupants, published by Doubleday. And I've read one Bill Bryson book before. It's the Sunburned Country one about him traveling around Australia. He does that like narrative nonfiction style. And this is talking all about the human body. So how it functions, how it heals itself, how it can fail, that type of thing. So I know at least I can like his writing, although I did read him many, many years ago. This is a huge book, so we'll see how that goes. So I'll go read those and be back. Last grouping that we have, and maybe this is one of the most exciting books for me to finally try out, because I remember at the time, maybe a decade ago, I was so excited to find this book. I found it at a library sale, but then never read it. So this is Sunburn by Laura Lipman. It's published by William Morrow, and I believe she writes like mystery thrillers. Yeah, you can see that it used to be a library book. And again, I don't even really read that genre very much, but I was just wanting to get anything and everything. So this says it's a psychological suspense about a pair of lovers with the best intentions and the worst luck. Two people locked in a passionate yet uncompromising game of cat and mouse. But instead of rules, this game has dark secrets, forbidden desires, inevitable betrayals, and cold-blooded murder. All right, we'll see. And then we have Manhattan Beach by Jennifer Egan. I've heard such mixed reviews about this book. This is published by Scribner. I have heard people rave about this, and others say it was like one of the worst things that they have ever read. So we'll see. Again, I don't know what this is about, but there's a map on the inside. I got this at a library sale as well, as I'm sure I did a lot of these other ones too. I think this is a World War II novel, if I'm not mistaken. And then we're following Anna when she's a young girl in the beginning, and then we follow her as she becomes a diver for the US Navy, which is an extremely dangerous occupation to have, and I think she's the first female ever to have that position. And then we kind of go from there and we see the war through her eyes. She lives in New York and Brooklyn. So that's Manhattan Beach. And then lastly, we have American War by Omar El-Akkad. This one's published by Knopf. This one I'm still intrigued about because I read Omar El-Akkad's latest book that is talking like part memoir and part Palestinian genocide. And in that book, he references this book a few times. This is also using a historical event as inspiration for it. And we're seeing a politically polarized America descending into a second civil war. Very intrigued. Of all the books, I think this is probably the one that I will end up definitely keeping, but we'll try it out just in case. I've read all of the books. Let's go over them and let me tell you what I'm keeping and not keeping. Actually, let me just tell you that first because you can see. You can see there's 2 stacks. I'm only keeping 2. So let's go over those first in this crazy turn of events where I'm keeping barely any of the books. The 2 that I'm keeping are American War, which is the one that I thought I was most likely to keep, and The Silent Patient. So let me talk about this one first. This one, I think the writing was really great immediately. It kind of reminded me what I like about his writing style. It's just really captivating, even when he's talking about like mundane domestic parts of life. We start off in the perspective of, I don't even know if we know his name, Surratt, who was born in Louisiana. We know immediately that he used to live in an orphanage, and he's sort of talking about the nostalgia around collecting postcards for him. And again, it's just the way that he talks about it immediately gripped me. So I knew I wanted to keep this one. And then The Silent Patient really gave me like Gone Girl vibes, which is why I want to keep it and try it out more. It has this idea of like, there's this woman who is maybe potentially presenting herself as very naive and frail, and yet maybe she might also be kind of like a mastermind. I'm not really sure, but it definitely gave me that vibe. We start off with a diary entry from her where she's very much in love with her husband. Maybe that's also reminding me of Gone Girl. I watched Gone Girl last year again, and I hadn't rewatched it since I originally saw it, and it was so good. It still holds up. Highly recommend. So yeah, start with the diary entry, and then the very next chapter starts off with the husband's death. And it's kind of like a pretty horrific crime scene. That's where I left it off. And I thought, yeah, that's definitely intriguing enough for me to want to continue and read more. So these are the only 2 that I'm going to be keeping. Let me talk you through the other ones and why I'm getting rid of them, because not all of them are because I don't think they're going to be good. There are about half that I just didn't like the writing, and then half where I really enjoyed the writing, but I just don't think it's going to be a book to my taste anymore. Sunburn. This one was reading very, very cheesy, and that's why I didn't want to read it. This one is kind of like the thriller mystery. It's 2 people that meet in this small beach town at a bar, and then they both seemingly unexpectedly decide to stay in the motel. And that's the part where I read to. And then you know from the blurb that they kind of start an affair with one another, and then someone dies in the town and there's like secrets. Did one of them do it? What's going on? Who knows? It was reading very cheesy, so I didn't want to continue with it. Next up, we have The Emperor of Maladies. This is the one that I almost kept. I had it in the keep pile until the very end. This writing is really well done. You start off with this little paragraph in the beginning that is talking about like the stats of how many people have cancer in a given year and just how prevalent it is. And then you get a pretty lengthy author's note. It's several pages that very briefly explain what cancer is, like what is biologically happening in the body. And then the prologue follows an actual case of a woman who wakes up one day, she's having all of these symptoms, trying to go to the doctor, and then they find out that she has cancer. And I do like when nonfiction books take this like very human approach where they follow specific individuals and give you like case studies about them. I just ultimately decided that I don't know if I want to read, you know, a 600-page book on cancer. I think like if I wanted to learn more about cancer specifically, I think I would read something shorter, like I would read an article, something like that. But do I want to invest this many pages in reading about cancer? Not really at this point in time. So that's why I'm getting rid of that one. Then we have Manhattan Beach. This starts out with a father and a daughter in a car ride together, and I really didn't like the dialogue between them. It felt a little stilted and also somewhat confusing, and that was enough for me to be like, nope, not for me then. So that was Manhattan Beach. Then we have The Body by Bill Bryson. This is another one like The Emperor of Maladies, where I actually enjoyed the writing of this, but do I want to read again like a huge book on the body? Not really. It honestly, this was giving me Malcolm Gladwell vibes, and he's also not really an author that I love. It's very like all over the place, just kind of giving these like pop science facts that are not my jam. So that's why I'm getting rid of this one. This one was in fact too outdated for me. It's working on census information from 2014, I believe, and that's just already very outdated, and it was bothering me as I was reading the beginning, so getting rid of this one. The Richard Russo, I can confirm this man is not canceled. He is not canceled. He seems to be very loved. So apologies to this man. This one was just the type of like small town drama that is not really my taste anymore. The writing I like. It's giving me something that I think is a little bit too heartfelt, that sounds bad, than what I like reading anymore. And same is to be said of this book, Saints for All Occasions. And actually Richard Russo blurbs this book, and they had very similar vibes. We start off just in the perspective of Nora, one of the sisters. I didn't get to the other sister's perspective. In the beginning of the book, she gets a call that one of her sons has died, and it's her child that she's always been really worried about. And so she goes to the hospital and sees his body, and then she's kind of reflecting back on her other kids and reflecting back on her sister. And again, this just felt like this kind of like familial drama that isn't really for me, where it's like slightly more on the commercial side, and really wanting to like be heartfelt and have like a reconciling between the two sisters. Yeah, I need something like a little bit grittier, a little bit more unusual, a little bit more off kilter, if I'm gonna read like a heartfelt family drama. And that's just personal taste. That's not any judgment on the quality of the books. So same reason I'm getting rid of that. Furiously Happy, again, it was a cheesiness factor for me. It's written in that style where it's like very voicey and self-deprecating, and this book, you realize very early on, is all about mental health and her own mental health struggles and how she tries to maintain being happy while being mentally ill. And yeah, it's just the voice for me. I knew it wasn't gonna work as soon as I started it. And then lastly, I'm getting rid of The Goldfinch. This was the writing, which is surprising to say. The writing, something felt off. Like it didn't read, I was gonna say like a human. I know that sounds so bad, but like the structure of the sentences grammatically felt off to me, and I kept getting hung up on sentences because of that. Yeah, I just didn't want to read this many pages of that. So that's The Goldfinch. So that is it. We've cleared up so much room on my shelves. All of these will be going into the little free library right outside of my place. So they'll be going to hopefully homes where they will be enjoyed more. And I'm happy to have cleared up some space on my shelf for other books that I want to read. Thank you for joining me today. Please let me know if you have read any of these and what you thought about them. Let me know if you think I'm gonna regret anything that I'm getting rid of. I think this is probably the most shocking one. And also let me know if you read any of the two that I'm keeping. These aren't like guaranteed I'm gonna love them now. It's just guaranteed that I'm willing to like give them a true shot. But even with my last round, I think I've read a couple of those, and I think DNF'd at least one. I think there'll be one more episode of this. I have no idea when. It might even be next year, to do the last little cube on this section with the double stack books. because I'm really prepping to take my Now or Never series over to this side of my bookshelves. Again, these are like the least pulled from cubes. I hardly ever pull books off of these, and I want to change that. So Now or Never will be coming over here, but I wanted to do some initial culling before I did that. So I'll leave you there for today. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.